All right, so respiratory system. Respiratory. Well, guess what? To breathe again and again and again and again. That's what it means. Respiratory system. Chapter 23. This will go by pretty quick, and I know that everybody printed up these slides today, right? No. Right. The respiratory system cells produce energy for maintenance, growth, defense, and division through mechanisms that use oxygen and produce carbon dioxide. Well, let's just stick with that. How about we help, our respiratory system helps get rid of CO2 and supply O2 to the body. Okay, now it says maintenance, growth, defense, and division. Now, in some cases, yes. Now, whoa, that's a big fly. Look at him. It's like, I'm in the classroom, I'm learning. He can stay. Okay, so oxygen is obtained from the air by diffusing across a delicate exchange surface of the lungs. It's a tissue. It's alveolar tissue. And you guys already know what it is. I can skip this and see. I'm going to test you on it. What type of tissue are we talking about, Ellen? Alveolar, yeah. What specific type of tissue? I'm just picking on you just because. Jessica, you know it? It is an epithelial tissue, but what specific type? So we're narrowing it down. This is good. We got alveolar, huge. Epithelial, simple squamous epithelial tissue. Simple squamous. That means that we're going to move from a greater concentration to a lesser concentration, or in this case, from a greater pressure to a lesser pressure. What? And it's all based around atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure is already set. It's a number. This is where the whole math comes in. It's a set number. So if you breathe in and it changes the number, that means it's a greater pressure or a lesser pressure. And then when you breathe out, it changes the number, greater or lesser. But ultimately, it's going to continue to equalize with atmospheric pressure all the time. Okay? So, it's obtained by the diffusion across a delicate exchange surface, is carried to cells by cardiovascular system, which also returns carbon dioxide to the lungs because our cells in our body never stop producing it. Never. Even if we hold our breath. We're still producing it. Okay? So, 5 functions of the respiratory system: provide extensive gas exchange, all right? Moves air to and from exchange surface of the lungs, protects respiratory surface from outside environment. We've already gone through this. We should be skilled operators when we're talking about protection. We just finished the immune system, all right? Produces sound and then participates in olfactory sense. Olfactory. Olfactory, what is it? Smell, yeah. Smell. Yeah. I know you're chuckling because I did that, but guess what? Smell and taste go hand in hand. How many people do this when they go to the refrigerator and they look in there and there's like a bowl of something that was put in there a few days ago? And you do this. Oh no. My dad can eat that. Yeah. You know you do it, right? It doesn't smell quite right. You don't eat it. But you don't realize that it's cold. Things change smell when they're cold. You heat it up and you're like, ooh, what's that? And your dad's like, the food you left for me. And it's still good. And you're jealous because he's eating it. So, organization of the respiratory system. The respiratory system is divided into upper, okay, above the larynx, lower, below the larynx. Easy peasy. Upper airway, lower airway. Respiratory tract consists of a conducting portion and a respiratory portion. There is no air exchange in the conducting portion. From the nasal cavity to the terminal bronchioles, okay? From the respiratory bronchioles to the alveoli. The respiratory portion is where there's an exchange of gas. The conducting portion, there's no exchange of gas. It's just a bunch of funnels, a bunch of tubes, pathways. Okay? A bunch of pathways, and all they're doing is just conducting it to an area. That's it. Alveoli are air-filled pockets within the lungs where all gas exchange takes place. Okay? And unbelievably, these little pockets have holes in them, they have pores in them, to make sure that the air exchange is equalized perfectly over the lungs. So instead of funnel, where these are going to get more and these are going to get less, there's actually holes throughout the whole thing so the air diffuses equally. Okay, and we saw that as a demonstration. When we blew that up, the lung inflated and then decreased. Inflated, instead of one part bulbing and then the other part slowly getting it. All right? So what will you need to know? Well, you'll need to know the lung anatomy along with from the larynx down. So from the larynx down, you will need to know all of the lung anatomy. And pretty in depth, too. Okay? As for the face, okay, upper respiratory system, well, nasal cavity, nose, okay, sinuses we already know about. Pharynx, we're talking behind the tongue there. Epiglottis right here. Notice the esophagus, posterior to the actual trachea. So it is no surprise that when you hear someone go, I swallowed something and I can't breathe. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna... wrong. As long as they're talking, they're breathing. So it's no surprise when someone's choking on something, you tell them to keep doing what? Keep coughing, keep talking, keep coughing, keep talking. Because if they're doing that, are they exchanging air? Yeah, they are. Now the biggest majority of the time when people swallow something, and they're like, oh, it hurts right here, they're fine. Their airway's always open. The food's behind it, putting pressure on the airway, but the airway's not collapsed or closed. It's just uncomfortable until they drink some milk or water, and they're like, oh, that feels so much better. And I know you all have done that before, where it's your favorite food, and you're mowing it down like you're shoveling it, and you feel that, and you, oh, that was the best hamburger ever. Okay? That's behind the trachea. So we've got our larynx, our trachea, our bronchus, our bronchioles, and then smallest or terminal bronchioles, and then alveoli. Put that owl in there, alveoli. All right, respiratory epithelium. Well, alveoli walls, very, very thin. Okay, surface area must be very great, about 35 times the surface area of the body. Okay, and what we're talking about is just a whole bunch of little round sacs. 35 times. Pretty insane. Okay, consists of an epithelial layer, an areolar layer called the lamina propria. Right, lines the conducting portion of the respiratory system. We already know what lamina propria is. Everybody's heard that before. Nothing new there. Okay, underlying areolar tissue that supports the respiratory epithelium. Okay, it's found in the upper respiratory system, trachea and bronchi. It contains mucus glands that secrete onto the epithelial tissue. And, unbelievably, there is a specific type of tissue found in there that has little cilia that move, pseudostratified, that move the mucus up to your throat so you can, yeah. Okay, in the conducting portion of the lower respiratory system, it contains smooth muscle. The smooth muscle is what's constricting when you go into anaphylactic shock. Not the upper. This right here will not constrict. It has cartilage rings. Hyaline cartilage rings, to be exact. So if you go like this and you feel those rings, that's not going to actually constrict. It's down in the bronchioles, okay, that's constricting. It's surrounded by smooth muscle, and that smooth muscle will constrict. Oh, what is that? Ciliated columnar epithelial cells and mucus cells. Pseudostratified ciliated columnar. You guys remember that? Oh my God. Not supposed to remember 241. Oh, I love 241. Okay. Closer look, we've got the cilia. What does the cilia do? It moves the mucus up. Not down, up. Up to your throat so you can or cough it out like that and wipe it on your jeans. Okay, structure of the respiratory epithelium, pseudostratified. We already know that. Stratified squamous. Why stratified squamous? A portion of it is stratified. Just straight up stratified squamous. Why? A portion of it's stratified squamous. How about abrasion, protection? Isn't part of that shared with the digestive tract? Don't you swallow food? Isn't food enlarged? Can be abrasive? Think about it. When was the last time you ate Captain Crunch? Wasn't it kind of scratchy? Yeah, Captain Crunch is the greatest. Oh. Yeah, because didn't we have non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium in our mouth? And when we ate Captain Crunch, didn't it peel off the roof of your mouth and you were tonguing it for like 2 days? Yeah. Okay, then there is pseudostratified, there is cuboidal. Okay, alveolar epithelium. This is simple squamous. Okay, this is simple squamous. It contains scattered and specialized cells. There are going to be cells in there, alveolar macrophages. You guys remember that, right? And you're also going to have a cell that secretes a substance called surfactant. Surfactant, and that actually helps with your airway. Respiratory defenses, okay, consists of a series of filtration mechanisms, removes particles and pathogens. If they do make it past, we have alveolar macrophages. Components of the respiratory defense: mucus cells, produce mucus, trap debris, filter in the nasal cavity. That's right. So everything you breathe in, you've got hairs and mucus that hang down right here. Some people longer than others. Like some people actually have a forest hanging out of their nose. Sometimes they get little dingle hoppers hanging off of them when they breathe. The dingle hopper does this. And you're fixated on it. You can't stop staring at them. You're like, whoa. Yeah. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen that person. Maybe it's the person at the checkout stand or something like that, but their dingle hopper's hanging out their nose. All that is foreign debris that you picked up. You should be like, you know what? You got a dingle hopper, but keep it. That's just a trophy that you've collected foreign debris. Just keep that hopper. Okay? Yeah. So, we have a forest of hairs in our nose. I know some of you are like, no, I don't. Yeah, you do. Okay, you have a forest of hairs and it's going to collect stuff. The mucus is going to trap it. And then alveolar macrophages, those are found in our lungs, and they're going to engulf any foreign debris that does make it past. Now, I always like to share this story. I have 1 minute before we start our little in-class activity. I love to share this story. I got a call one night. I was on call in Colorado, a GI technical specialist, so they called up and said, Phil, we need to do an emergency bronchoscopy. I'm like, okay. I said, how much time do I have? They said, you have about 45 minutes. I'm like, okay. Literally jumped into my scrubs with my pajamas on underneath, okay? Blasted down to the hospital, set up all my stuff for an emergency bronchoscopy. And we go in, and the guy's sitting on the bed, just, you know, can't breathe. And of course, you know the first thing I'm thinking, well, if he's talking, he's breathing, it's okay. Doctor leans over, and he says, this is a crazy one, Phil. I said, a crazy one? He's like, yeah, it's a crazy one. I'm like, what are we looking at? And he's like, ask him. I said, so what happened? Did you inhale something? He's like, yes. What'd you inhale? That'll help us get it out if you can tell us what you inhaled. He's like, a peanut. What? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I was eating peanuts and the peanut, a whole peanut went into his lung. So we actually shot epinephrine in there, which causes his bronchioles to dilate, sent the emergency bronchoscopy down there, and sure enough, there was a peanut. I sent my wire down with my radio claws on it, grabbed the peanut, and whoop, pulled it out. So we recovered a peanut from a gentleman's lung. Pretty crazy. Of course, we had to give him antibiotics because who knows what was on it. They were salted, so he had salt in his lungs too. So we had to rinse part of it out so the fluid has to pass. But yeah, I got called in because a gentleman inhaled a peanut. So, woohoo. All right, it was pretty awesome. Last thing he said to me instead of thank you was, can I keep the peanut? I'm like, no, you can't keep the peanut. Peanut's going in the trash. Remember, our new technology, we have fiber optics. Literally, when we went down, we could see everything. Sure enough, we got down into the bronchus. There's the peanut, lodged. Just reached in, grabbed it with some radial claws, and pulled the peanut out. It was a little slick, but still got it out. So, yeah, this is the kind of stuff you get to deal with in healthcare. Okay? So we'll stop right here for right now. I think that's good.